Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm very excited to bring you a look at the brand new Transformers Legacy Wave 2 Deluxe class figure, Elita-1. Now, I just covered the review for her Wavemate Wild Rider yesterday. Now we get to look at Elita because I managed to get these two from Big Bad Toy Store. Oddly enough, they only got these two in and not the other two in the wave. Not sure why. Maybe they were sold in solid cases, who knows. But it is an exciting opportunity to get a pretty early look at a figure that hasn't really hit most places here in the US yet. And this makes the third Elita-1 figure that we've received in Generations in the last, half a decade. So they're really just trying to get her right. The first one was a giant Seibertronian jet. The second one was an RC retool. And now this one is one that's given a proper pseudo-Earth-based alt mode. Technically, Elita never had an Earth mode in Generation 1, but we do know through various leaks, both listings and actual in-hand pictures, that this toy is sharing a mold with the character Minerva, who naturally would have an Earth-based alt mode. So hopefully this new take on Elita gives us our most G-Run accurate version of the character yet. That being said, if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at Elita-1's packaging, then we'll open it up. We'll look at the instructions first, and then we'll see Elita-1 herself in both vehicle and robot modes. Naturally, I'll be doing plenty of group shots and comparisons today. And then at the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts. So Elita comes in your standard Deluxe class Legacy packaging. You can see this little half window here with the toy inside, for some reason facing off to the side. Not a big deal. You can see some artwork of the vehicle mode here. You get her name. You get the robot mode artwork right here, both a somewhat full body shot and then a close-up. You get her name in Ancient Autobot right there. Usual brandings and everything. Then on the back, we get renders of the toy in vehicle and robot modes. She takes 14 steps to transform, so not super complex, but not super simple either. You can see her vehicle mode even comes with some faux kibble to recreate the top of her head poking out to the top of the vehicle, which is accurate to the old cartoon. Now, it is a little weird to get kibble that's just the top of the character's head. But remember, this is a toy that had to work as both Elita-1 and Minerva, which means there's going to be some compromises in the way the transformation works and the way everything's engineered. She also comes with these really cool, clear blue rifles right here. Down here, we get the QR code that you could scan in the Transformers website to unlock her bio and tech specs. And then finally, on the side, we get the Autobot half of the Legacy side panel. Here's Elita-1's instruction book. You can see her render and her name in the middle, branding around the edges here. We open this up, and the first thing it does is show you where to place her little fake head kibble thing on her backpack. Have her dual wielder rifles, or combine them into one long rifle to wield in one hand. And then we get the transformation from robot to vehicle. Continues around on the back. And then two different loadouts for the weapons. You can have the standard configuration where the head kibble's poking out the top, pretending like it's her actual head. And then the weapons are off to the side, or you can remove that head kibble piece and put the combined weapons on top like a turret. Now, this doesn't tell you where to store the little head kibble after this, but you can just kind of use your imagination, plug it wherever you want, or leave it off. It's up to you. So that is the instruction sheet. Now we get to see Elita's vehicle mode, and it's just this tiny little compact looking car. Almost kind of resembles a dune buggy. It's got this cool cockpit thing going on here on the top. You get her little fake head kibble right here that's plugged into a 5mm post. Into a 5mm port. Here's a post. So, that's meant to just evoke her classic vehicle mode, even if the rest of this doesn't really look anything like that vehicle. You have the weapons stored on the side here. They look pretty decent. They don't stick out too far. They're nice and flush with the side. Let's go ahead and take them off for a second so you can see the whole thing. Her feet fold inward to form some sort of little rocket boosters or thrusters, which is kind of similar to Ironhide's. The big difference here, though, is that the feet aren't left just, hanging off like this, where it's just, feet awkwardly sticking off the back. They fold in to be a little more streamlined and just give this appearance of it, actually being meant to be there, you know what I mean? It helps fill in the back of the vehicle mode. So I think it's a much better approach than what they did with the old Siege and Earthrise Ironhides. And overall, pretty decent-looking vehicle. You see quite a bit of robot kibble on the underside, but at least her body parts are actually integrated into the alt mode. You can see her arms are forming the sides here. Her legs make up most of this back area. And the vehicle rolls very, very well. And look at that, no pegs sticking out of the wheels either. They did it the right way, where the pegs go inwards. So overall, I like it. It's, you know, pretty decent looking. I think her specific color breakup that's necessary for the robot mode ends up making the colors on this look a little bit disjointed. Almost like the car's been in an accident and they had to replace some parts of the body with, like, parts of a differently colored car. And I know it's a bit of a criticism that other people have levied at this toy too, that the color breakup in the vehicle mode is just really not great, and I do agree. It is kind of sacrificed to make a better looking robot mode. Luckily, the Minerva retool from this looks a good bit better as far as how the colors lay out in vehicle mode. Alright, now let's go ahead and show off that alternate weapon configuration. So you just take this out of here, and you can plug it in different places. It's going to be weird because you're just going to have the top of her head poking out from somewhere random. Maybe put it in here? Would that? No? Maybe? I don't think that'll work. Nah. Alright. I'm just going to leave it off. You can do whatever you want. Okay. So we're going to go ahead, plug these together like this. This is the official configuration, though you can go, you know, in from either side and use the post that's sticking down further to plug into the top of the vehicle. You get this, you know, very War for Cybertron-like vibe, just a heavily armed vehicle driving around shooting at things with a little rotating turret on top. It's pretty decent. I prefer the regular configuration just because it's a little more streamlined looking and you get her like proper kibble. But it's totally up to you how you want to display it. I think either one is, you know, more than serviceable. Now here is a group shot with the other two Elita-1 figures that have been released in modern times, not including the club exclusive toy. Now both of these toys are actually retools of toys that were released a little bit, you know, prior to them. This one right here, the Power of the Primes Elita-1, is a heavy retool of the Power of the Primes Starscream, and in my opinion, the far better use of this mold. Making Elita some sort of a Seibertronian jet that's something akin to Scattershot was an odd choice, admittedly, like she's never been shown to have an aerial vehicle mode. But it made for a decent looking toy and allowed her to combine with her teammates to form Orthia, which was pretty cool. And then this one over here is the War for Cybertron or Netflix Elita-1, which was a fairly significant retool of the Earthrise RC, and as such is pretty much a terrible mold. Now I do think it's the best looking use of that mold, but it's still a bad mold. So, you know, the vehicle mode from the top looks like okay, right? Looks like some sort of modified version of RC's alt mode. And then you get down here. And you realize she is nothing but a shell former. Like, there's the whole robot mode just folded up underneath. Like, all this car kibble, you could just remove and have an entire robot. Like, she doesn't factor into this alt mode at all. So that's something that's really unfortunate about this toy. I mean, it looks decent and works better than RC, but still just not good. Not a good Transformer. This one, you know, much cleaner. You can see the back of the head. She does have the hands that are sticking out, which is kind of annoying, a little unfortunate. You do technically have the option of flipping the hands inward. You're just going to lose the ability to plug the arms into the sides of the legs here, so it's not going to be as stable of a vehicle mode. But she's okay. You know, she's just some futuristic looking jet. Obviously, her engineering's not up to par with something like these two because they were released, you know, post-War for Cybertron when the priority was shifted from size to complexity and articulation. So she does feel a little bit dated by today's standards. Still a fun toy, though. All right, now it's time to transform Elita-1 to a robot mode. So the first thing you want to do is remove the weapons. The head kibble you can keep on if you want to. It's going to end up in the same official storage place either way. So first thing you want to do is flip the feet out. And you're going to accordion her legs downward like this. They snap into place. Separate the legs from each other here. And you fold these panels in, like so. Make the legs nice and complete. Go ahead and spin the waist around 180, like so. We're going to untab her arms from the vehicle fenders right here. Come on. They plug in up into here and into here. So you got to remove like 2 pegs. All right. Fix the arms, fix the fists, get them rotated the right way, like that. All right. Now we're going to mess with the kibble. So you want to lift it up off of her like this. Get it kind of going diagonal. You're going to flip this piece in like so. Tuck it away. And then this area, you're going to flip down. Now, I'm going to leave it like this for a second. There's a little more to it, but kind of some options here on how you want to display her. All right, so this is one version of the robot mode, where you have her car kibble just kind of collapse down like a regular backpack. And this is something that the designers stressed during her reveal, that you have two different ways of, configuring the car kibble. You can leave it nice and compressed like this, which leaves her a pretty sizable backpack, but does maintain something closer to her old silhouette. So you can do that. Or we can go ahead and flip the kibble up. So you kind of swing this out of the way, bring these down, and they're on a double hinge. So you gotta rotate them kind of upward like this. The same thing here. Pull the backpack back down and get these positioned over the shoulders. And what that does, it gives her kind of a shoulder kibble, very reminiscent to that of Minerva, which there's a reason for that, obviously. Now, the designers claim that this toy was made like with just Elita-1 in mind, that they weren't trying to go for, working anything else into this. I do find that kind of hard to believe. I really do. I don't know if they were just kind of deflecting because Minerva hasn't been officially revealed yet or what, but it is just a very interesting coincidence how this all comes together, especially when you see this fake shoulder kibble, because it looks like this toy was really meant to be Minerva first and foremost, at least as far as how the transformation goes and everything, and then Elita was also just worked in to work with this. But there is also some evidence showing that maybe they were telling the truth, because when you look at the Minerva retool, if you've seen images of it, I guess I can go ahead and post one of those right here, you'll see that there was almost no retooling done to that toy at all. Like, it was just the new Minerva head. All the robot mode details were left the same, so there wasn't at least any planned retooling to the body. And I was really hoping to see things like the, abdomen, torso details, all that, be reworked to be something closer to how Minerva actually looks. Unfortunately, she ends up being more or less a simple head swap with, a new coat of paint. So I don't know. Maybe it is just coincidence that she happens to have the shoulder kibble, and they looked at that and were like, oh, hey, this could work for Minerva, and they just, came up with a new head. I'm not sure. But whether or not they actually plan to make her Minerva from the get-go, she makes for a very nice-looking robot. Now, I'm still kind of torn on which way I prefer to display the kibble. I think I'll probably, when it comes to keeping her on my shelf, keep the car kibble folded down, and then when I get Minerva, keep hers folded up just to help differentiate them. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to whatever you think looks better. All right, so we get her two weapons, and you can have them wielded combined like we did before, right? Give her like one big old cannon like this, which looks okay. I don't like it when the weapon posts are like offset, though. I always find that weird. So I'm gonna have her dual wield. I think she looks pretty cool dual wielding them like this. There you go. There you go. Now she looks like she's ready for a fight. A very spry Autobot warrior, just ready to take down some cons, start blasting. I like it. I think it comes together very well. Now when it comes to the articulation, pretty standard stuff. She's got the ball joint head. It's a little tight for her. She can't look up or down very well, and it takes some force to turn the head from left to right. She's got her universal shoulders, which can be blocked a little bit if you have the kibble flipped up like this. She's got bicep swivel, single bend elbows. She does have wrist swivel, which is awesome. She has a full waist swivel, universal hips, nice layered thigh swivel there, deep single bend knees, and ankle tilt. Though the ankle tilt's kind of weird because it ratchets at like this point. So it's really hard to get anything between here and here. I don't know why they did that. And if you're careful and you kind of let it stay pushed against the ratchet, you can get something in between. But it has a tendency to want to pop into one position or the other. Don't know why. I don't know if it's just a clearance issue or what. Seems like something that should have been caught during quality control, but not the end of the world. Doesn't really ruin the toy. Just makes her a little more finicky to pose. So yeah, really quality robot mode. Small. She is a small character, but she handles very, very well in hand. And the robot mode, the colors and everything come together much more nicely than they do for the vehicle mode. Okay, now we get to see a robot mode group shot with the other two Elita-1s. Again, we get our Power of the Primes Voyager, and then our Netflix War for Seibertron Deluxe. Now, what's interesting is that none of these three figures make an attempt to be very strictly Generation 1 accurate. The first two figures, as far as the colors go, utilize some sort of like heavy red and kind of a coral color scheme. And then the Netflix one even throws some more loops in there by adding this like dark tan color to her palette. This new toy is the only one that really seems to get the colors right. But then she also takes some artistic liberties, especially when it comes to the head. Her helmet is a much more, I guess, kind of standard rounded helmet than what we saw on Generation 1 Elita. Now, funny enough, the character that generally strays the furthest from her base design right here actually has the closest thing to a G1 accurate head sculpt. Because Elita-1 just had a very, very bizarre looking helmet area where you had like antennae sticking up, and then you had these like weird little fan things and these other crests like around the cheek area. She seems to take those details and just smooth it all out, because you can see like vague little details here that kind of resemble these on the sides, and then the helmet kind of flares out at the bottom to, you know, somewhat resemble this. So I guess they didn't want to go full G1. Maybe the designers thought the helmet was just too silly looking, which admittedly it is a funny looking helmet design. Now the Netflix toy strayed the furthest from it, where she just got a very standard looking helmet that it just had like some horns sticking up right there. And honestly, she's so far off from like a standard, you know, Generation 1 Elita-1 that I just really consider her very specifically the War for Seibertron Elita. Like the one that is really only tied to the Netflix cartoon and the second run of IDW comics. Because she has very, very little resemblance to the source material. This one, I think, overall comes the closest. Obviously, she's got some details that lean more toward Minerva than Elita-1, which I forgot to mention this before the group shot, but her rifle's right here. Each one of those is based on the weapons of a different character. So this one right here is actually like a weird combination of Alita's little pistol from the cartoon, and then also some concept art for a rifle that never got used, so it's like a blend of the two. And then this one is actually just the Minerva / Nightbeat gun that the old toy came with. So yeah, I'm not buying this whole, you know, we didn't plan for her to be something else, or like, just no. Obviously Minerva was very much factored in when designing this thing. So again, I don't know why they deflected so much on that one. It's not like we didn't know she was coming. But anyway, that's not very important. I think the biggest thing to look at here is this is probably the closest we're going to get for a long time to, you know, something resembling the original cartoon character. Now, there is one specific way in which she pretty much fails to resemble the cartoon character, and that's her height. So you can see she's roughly the same height as the other Deluxe. She seems shorter, and I think that's because of her Mega Man character-like proportions, you know, big old giant calves and everything. Whereas this one, looking more slender, seems like she should be taller, but really they are just about the same height. Now this Voyager, being an older Voyager, is much larger than what a modern Voyager normally looks like. So that puts us in this really weird in-between territory. Now I've brought out our Earthrise Optimus Prime to demonstrate why her height matters so much. This toy manages to be pretty G1 accurate in most ways, except for the fact that Elita-1 is supposed to be roughly as tall as Optimus Prime. She's supposed to be more or less his equal when it comes to like power and skill and everything, because they were both, you know, rebuilt by Alpha Trion to be these champions, you know, lead their own armies or teams or whatever. And you can see she's not even close. Like her head doesn't even come up to her, his chest area here. So for whatever reason, they seem determined lately to make Elita-1 this very small character when she is supposed to be like a big heroic leader character. Now the Power of the Primes toy kind of got it right by making her a Voyager, but if we compare her to Optimus, you can see she's too big for Optimus, because again, the general downscaling of War for Cybertron toys. So it seems it's going to be a long time before we get an Optimus and Elita that really properly scale to each other. I don't know if Hasbro's just decided that they want Elita-1 to be a smaller character, because she now has been ever since the Netflix version, or if it really just comes down to them needing to retool her from other characters, so she ends up, you know, often just being a Deluxe. I don't know, but it is a little bit disappointing because she looks more like his daughter than his equal or his lover. Like, she's just so much smaller than him. And it really is unfortunate that we're not getting a properly scaled Elita. This, to me, seems more like an Ariel than anything. And, you know, maybe she should get like an upgraded form later. But, I don't know. I'm not sure how many more times they're going to do a G1 Elita-1 in the near future. I know we have the Earthspark one coming up, but that's obviously, different character. It's going to look pretty different. And considering they've touched on this character now 3 times in recent years, I'm not sure if they're going to do her in Generations again anytime soon. So this may be the last, good Elita-1 we get for a while, and we're just going to have to accept the fact that she is grossly undersized for who she's supposed to be. And this completes our look at the brand new Transformers Legacy Elita-1. I have to say I'm very fond of this toy. I think it came out very, very well for the most part. The vehicle mode is well done. The robot mode looks awesome. I love that you get a lot of options for both. Like, you can choose to have her really bizarre head kibble sticking out of the roof of the car, if you want to be G1 accurate, or you can just remove it because it's just a simple, singular plastic piece. And, that way you can get kind of a cooler looking, less awkward car. And then when it comes to robot mode, you get options for the backpack kibble. You can give her these cool shoulder pylons. You can fold it up more neatly to give her, something closer to her G1 appearance. And she looks good. I'm really a huge fan of the robot mode. I kind of compared her to a Mega Man character because she does have those really kind of big, bulky, calf areas and forearm areas. And it's an aesthetic I actually very much like, so I think it works for her. So yeah, I'm a fan of this. The only downside to her, like I said, is really just she's too small. She's too small to be the Elita-1 of old, and ends up hewing a little bit closer to the more modern take on the character from War for Seibertron, where she's just a normal-sized bot instead of being, a big leader character like Optimus. So yeah, I don't know why they keep making her so tiny. Again, I think it's just out of necessity because they want to make her, but they don't want to give her own separate mold, so they make her share molds with other characters who are typically smaller, like RC, like Minerva. So it is just the unfortunate financial reality of it that until we get an Elita-1 who is built from the ground up to only be Elita-1 and to scale with Optimus, this is probably the closest thing we're going to get. So if you don't care about the scaling too much and doesn't bother you, I think you'll be very much satisfied with this toy. I think she pulls off being Elita better than any other version we've seen so far. If the scale does bother you, then you may want to go for the Power of the Primes one. Her appearance, her alt mode's not very G1 accurate, but she comes the closest to scaling with Optimus out of any version so far. So it's really up to you what your priorities are. But if you're just looking for a good toy, I think she is absolutely it. If you don't want a compromised Elita, you could just hold off for the Minerva version of the mold, which will be a little bit less compromised, except for the chest details and stuff. And the fact that she's not a headmaster, which I personally find inexcusable. Because that makes me wonder how much you're going to prioritize that gimmick for other headmaster characters. So yeah, it's really it's all very subjective, but overall I think most people are going to be satisfied with this toy. Of course, that is just my take on this new Elita-1. So now I want to know what you all think of her. Is this something you've been looking forward to? Do you like the toy for what it is? Do you care about the scaling or not? Or is this not for you? Either you don't want the character, you don't like the way she came out, maybe you think there's a better version out there. Any and all feedback is always welcome in the comments section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you for joining me for this look at the brand new Transformers Legacy Wave 2 Deluxe figure, Elita-1. And with all that said, I will see you next time.